look down below. See the button that says subscribe? Go ahead and press it for me. Thank you so much for your support. Welcome to Shannon Confidential. I am Shannon, your host, and Shannon Confidential is a podcast about life, love, and everything in between. And today's in between is really going to be a lot of fun. It's about dance, but not just regular dance or club dancing or taking ballet lessons. It's more healing, therapeutic. And I am so excited to bring you Morgyn Danae with Morgyn Danae Wellness. And she does something, and this is what I found interesting. It's called Somatic Recovery. And I wasn't quite sure what somatic recovery was, somatic recovery dance therapy. I just never heard of it before. So I decided to hop on the call with her and introduce myself and see what she did. And I found it so intriguing. She helps with so many different things, trauma therapy, reducing your belly, everything that you could possibly think of to need help with, and all these different forms of dance, whether it's your breathing, she does it class, she does it private, she does it online. There is so much that she does. She has an incredible amount of background knowledge. She has so many accomplishments, but I'm going to let her tell you all of that. I can't wait for you to just listen to what she does. Just her voice, her soothing voice, and the way she speaks. I felt very calm and well put together after talking with Morgyn. So I hope you do too. So here she is up next, Morgyn Danae. All right, everybody, here she is, Morgyn Danae with Morgyn Danae Wellness. There are so many questions that I have, so many definitions. I told everybody what you did, all the different forms of dance, your breathing, how calming your voice is on our intro call. So everybody, Morgyn Danae.
Thank you.
Welcome, Morgyn.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much for being on Shannon Confidential.
Thank you so much, Shannon. You're so welcoming. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Appreciate being here.
Yeah. So just you take the floor and tell everybody how you got here, what it is that you do, and trust me, I'm going to throw out a million questions.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I have been on a journey for a while here, kind of developing my approach and synthesizing my studies and my recovery and my passions. And so, I'm very passionate about supporting people, and especially women, to really come into a loving relationship with their bodies in a really conscious way. Yeah, it's really huge. I mean, we can say that, but right, it's a walk. It's a dance in itself, but also in that way, getting to know our own stories, getting to know our own hearts, and beginning to make peace with that, because our stories affect our bodies as well. And we hold our stories.
Yes.
And so and then bringing that into freedom in movement, in our creative expression, and in the way that we relate to our lives, how we express our lives. And that can sound very kind of all wonderfully conceptual, but there is, it's definitely a process, and it's a learning process. And in many ways, it's an unlearning process.
Good point, because half of our problems is what we've been taught to feel and do, and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And you have to retrain your brain.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially when it comes to, self-image, confidence. There's people can beat you down. That can be pretty hard just because we've been taught that. So yes. I don't want to. So you go into and you do it. You do it through dance, which I've had different forms of therapy type work, whether it be financial therapy or emotional therapy. But I've never had anybody that did it through dance and breathing and technique like that. And that's what I found so interesting. So explain how that came about and the somatic dance there. I've never heard of any of that. I found it so intriguing.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. So my path started, so basically dance, the way that I approach it, it's a very grounded, down to earth thing, and really coming from the belief that love is all of our birthright, that we are beings of love, and that we flourish in love vibration when we can embody that and reclaim that. And so in that, I was called to, it was really a calling. It really was a spiritual calling. In the 90s, in my 20s, I was called to do healing work in the first place. I as a child, we know certain things, right? I felt a draw to healing, and I always loved to dance. And that was just always a very natural thing to me. That dance was, uplifted my spirit. And so, but I had a lot of trauma to heal and a lot of wounds to heal. And I was pursuing my own healing. I needed to save my own life. I really needed to do that. And so I started working with a spiritual guide and teacher in my healing process. And in that, I was finding my own path, a clarity around my own path. And in that, I felt this calling to teach dance as a healing art. And that's what spirit brought to me. And it felt I felt very passionate about that. But I also felt insecure. And so sometimes our deepest dreams can also be mixed up with our deepest insecurities, right? So we often don't pursue our dreams.
Fear is a mind killer.
Oh, yes. And so that was kind of where that started. And at that time, I was starting to study and practice breathwork, guided meditation, body work, healing. I was called to the belly, healing the belly. Is such a powerful place. And so I'm a core specialist. It's all intertwined, a holistic, working with the belly, with the core, with the hips, the pelvis, all of that. Such a powerful place of life force and creative expression and trauma and injury. And so that was kind of where it all started. And I was blossoming in belly dance. And so that's where I felt the first calling, was to teach belly dance as a healing art.
I took belly dance
and perform
many, many, many years ago with a friend of mine. Gosh, it was so long ago. And I loved it. I didn't use it as a healing. I guess I didn't see it that way. It was just belly dancing to me. But now you have made me see it completely different. But I loved it.
Yeah. Well, and even just when we're doing something we love, there's a healing in that. I mean, joy is healing, right?
Yes.
In that way. But yeah, kind of being conscious of, oh, okay, how do I feel in my body? How's this feeling in my heart? How's this feeling in my soul? How is it helping me to kind of see myself in a different way, or relate to life in a different way, because certainly dance has been also used in a way to somehow separate us from our bodies and not feel good about our bodies. And that's always an interesting conundrum to me, because I know that the roots of dance as human beings all over the world has been that it is a medicine.
Yes. I mean, so many different traditions in so many aspects of life and areas of the world where dance is so different depending on where you are.
Yes.
But there's always dance.
Yes. And community and family and gatherings and milestones of life. And, it can be used in ritual and ways to bring us. And this is another organic way that I relate to it, ways to bring us into healing states. To kind of say, athletes will say you get into the zone, or, artists, when we get into that kind of that creative zone, or that zone where we're just really kind of, I'll say, channeling that higher consciousness.
When you get in that zone, you lose track of time.
You lose track of time, you lose your inhibitions, and we can do that naturally through these kind of journeys of working with our breath, being conscious, and just tuning into the music, tuning into the rhythm. Nature's a big part of that too. I'm throwing out a lot of concepts, I know.
That's okay. I'm following along. I want to hear it all.
Yeah, but but nature has, I mean, there's so much healing in the natural world, obviously, and that's what we come from. That's what we're a part of. We're not separate. We've separated ourselves out, and that's where we get sick.
Yes.
That's where we get sick, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's finding your own relationship with that. But you think about how nature moves in cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And nature has an incredibly intricate and intelligent plan in the way that, how does this even happen? And then it's also beautiful. Wow. It's the ultimate work of art, but right.
Yes.
But we need that sunshine, that fresh air. There's actually, the ions in the air, all of this, the grounding that we do with the earth, with the ground. And that's a wisdom that indigenous peoples have always held and fought for us all to have that, for us all to keep that sacred connection, to keep our mental health, to keep our physical health, Yeah. And so,
So do you do a lot of your dance techniques, and you have several of them? So people, you don't just do dance for, therapy for this or dance therapy for that. You do an array, and we'll try to hit them, the bigger ones, as much as we have time for. But you were talking about the outside world and the earth and being grounded. Does this mean you do some outside classes, inside classes? How do you work incorporating nature and the earth, whether it be inside or outside?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So it's a combination. Some classes or workshops are outdoors, and always in beautiful places that people are going to feel really good in, and able to connect to, and then sometimes in studio as well, in person, again in a wonderful space. Also, I've done things online. I'm not presently doing any group things online, but I'm not that's going to happen again in the future too. So it is a combination. But so basically, obviously when we're outdoors, it's a lot easier to access that, and just there you are, surrounded by beautiful nature, so you can tune in pretty easily. But not everybody. I mean, some people need to kind of have that support. They're not used to it, they're used to this, and all of the outside modern world stimulation. So kind of slowing down and coming into yourself and connecting with nature, it can take a little while, because you got to kind of let it all go. And that's sometimes easier said than done. So
believe it or not, people are like, oh yeah, I'll just let it go. But then you kind of think you did, and then the next time you let go a little more, and less time you let go a little more, and you realize just how much you were not letting go in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. But you kind of go to what you're ready for. But also indoors, because again, nature lives inside of us. We are nature. We are designed we are designed like nature. I mean, but yet again, we've been disconnected from that. But through conscious meditation, meditative states, and breath work, and I guide the sessions as well, and call on those energies, because those are real energies that we're dealing with. The earth is a real Gaia, a life force unto herself, right? The moon has energy. We can feel the energy. It's not just about going crazy on a full moon. The moon has time.
Well, that does happen to people.
It does. No, it does. It does have that powerful pull, and it can bring things up. The sun, all of that. So again, this is very ancient. This is just ancient practice, and I will say that it's in all of our roots, far back. Just relating to the natural world and being in that reverent place, in that relationship kind of place. And so I definitely feel that in my bones. I feel that in my blood, in my DNA, in my the ancient self, so that's one element.
So open and in tune to yourself, and that, I'm sure, took time.
It's a practice. It's a daily practice, actually, and it's a fulfilling practice. It feels great.
It's just a constant improvement or evolvement. I don't say improvement as if someone's bad, but it's a constant awakening. Yes. And that has to, every day's different. Every day's
Yes.
more better every day. You maybe learn a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. And it's also a relationship that you're cultivating. So it's very nourishing. It feels really great. You know, it feels
Yeah.
really great to tune into nature and to give thanks and to, you know, give appreciation and to make that a priority, you know, whatever that means. Again, even if you are indoors, you know, meditating, staying focused in that energy, calling that energy in, giving thanks. Also, we work with
Calling it in,
movements,
just listening to your voice.
listening.
Yeah, I'm just, you're kind of like,
That's probably a body worker training too. But yeah, and so we work with movements as well to bring that up, you know, working with grounding ourselves, working with our feeling that connection from our feet, from the base of our spine, from our root chakra, working with flowing movements that might be like the trees, that might be like the water, you know, these kinds of things, and bringing that in to clear space in our beings, you know, and you know, in that too, when we're dealing with really painful emotions and painful situations, or you know, challenges, our obstacles, our you know, the ways that we don't feel worthy or that we don't have confidence, all those you know, those difficult places, our shadow places, you know,
are
it
there,
can be very comforting.
is there, there's not one dance for it all. So you just, you know, you brought up traumatic experiences or difficult, or, you know, different internal arguments you're having with yourself. Take us, what is that dance like? How does that take us through? Let's just say someone wants to contact you and do that. How do, what is
Yeah.
your first dance session like? How, if someone was trying to figure out, maybe that's what I need, what would that look like to them?
Absolutely. So, well, if I'm working with somebody one-on-one, of course, that's going to be very much based on their story and their needs and where they're at. You know, it's always going to be that way. But you know, honestly, with everything that we do, breath work is a part of that. We've got to tune into our breath first, because our breath is the original movement of our bodies. That is the beginning movement. It's from the inside out.
Okay.
It's where we start to connect into we start to get present, and we've got to kind of connect into our own energy and also calm our nervous systems, you know, again,
Yeah.
letting go of that outside world, the distraction, to start to become present, to actually feel the movement so that we get the benefit of what we're doing, you know. And so really, you know, I work kind of the signature elements that I work with, because there's not really a particular, you know, like there's a choreography that we do that's always going to be, you know, it's not really based in that so much as a process. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so with you know, with working with trauma, we're always gonna focus on kind of helping to reset the nervous system. I'm doing that with everybody though
Yeah.
these days, you know, especially
I
these days,
bet.
because people are very much more aware of that, the need for that, you know.
Yes.
But really coming into, and the number one thing about any of this is that people understand they're not going to be judged. There's
That's right.
no judgment. It's all about support. It's support and celebration of you. And it's about, you know, you feeling safe and being it's holding space as well. You know, I don't know if you've heard that term, but when we hold space, we're, you know, very much aware of making sure that the person is knows that they are in a safe space,
Okay. That's,
you know,
yeah.
that I'm very much there with them, focused with them. And it's a focus. I'll say it kind of a soft focus, because it's not about like, you need to get this right, or, you
Yeah.
know, it's not intrusive. It's very much accepting and supportive. And so we always start with that breath, because a lot of people don't even understand that they don't breathe. They're not aware of it all day long. And you might not have expected me to say this, and we're talking about dance, that I would start focus with so much focus on breath, but the breath is such a part of that, you know, because it also connects into our cores, and our core is our center of movement. And it connects into our chakras. And you think about our root chakra at the base of the spine. You think about the chakra, our sacral chakra just below our belly. That is our creative center. And that is where we connect in also into our sensuality, and where we digest our foods and our drink, but also our emotions. So, kind of connecting into this center helps us to feel that, can help us to feel that sense of safety. You think about getting butterflies in your stomach, or when we get nervous, right? We want to go to connecting into the center, into the belly, but also into the heart, so that you can start to feel that sense of just being able to come into feeling free to move, to start that movement process.
Just listening to you talk about it, there's just like a peace.
It is peaceful.
And you're just talking about it.
It is, because it's an interesting thing, because, that's really kind of the foundational place that we come from with the process, is that it is about finding that kind of peace, that sense of kind of grounding, that you have something beneath you supporting you, so you're not just like unanchored, untethered, right?
Yes.
Which we're kind of pushed to be like, and it's like, well, how's that going to help us really to not feel like we're in our bodies, And then with trauma, you can really leave. You leave a lot. You kind of leave the present moment, and trauma that's a whole conversation, because it can show up in so many ways. So much. It can be abuse. It can be more extreme things. It can be small things, like always being pushed to only achieve, or neglect, or disregard growing up, all these different ways. But when we come into a safe place, being present, then like more and more parts of ourselves can show up. And with that, we can build to more rigorous movement, because we work along the spectrum of that.
So when you bring up movement, so your classes or they're one-on-one with you, however you're working with this person.
Yeah.
And I would imagine trauma is probably more one-on-one.
It can be done I've done it doing workshops and classes as well. Absolutely. That community space can really nice.
All right. I could see how that could be. But once you do, your opening would always be connecting, getting to that grounded center, that comfort, that breath, getting your body in that space. Then the dance part, is that something they simply follow you? How do they go into the dance? Is it just following your movements? Is it whatever their body starts to do? Where does the dance start?
Yes, great question also. So it will also depend on the class and the people. Say, for example, I'll give you an example of a type of class that I teach or workshop. Process is, I call it meditative dance. I'm not the first person to call it that, but I'll call it meditative dance journeys. And so we start on the ground, connecting and with our breath and getting centered and all of that. And then we move into warm up, and I am guiding that with movements. And sometimes, depending on, some people want to just follow everything that I do, but sometimes for some people it's more suggested movement, because they need to tap into what their body needs in that moment. I can be doing a movement and start with a warm up and starting to open things up and opening up the body to release that tension and, start to get used to breathing and moving and that kind of thing. But some people really, it depends. They might be more used to just free movement, so they're more comfortable doing that. They're less inhibited, so they might go to that.
Okay.
But with other people, they may really need the movement that I'm doing, and then we get up and we start moving. And I do guide the movement. I will be doing guided movement, showing movement in this case. So there are other classes that might be integrating more technique or, whatever. But in this case, but I work with the music too. So the music has different elements. So I have it programmed. Yeah. Yeah, so I have it programmed in that way so that each song has a purpose, you know, and
Okay.
something that I'm working on eliciting, or, you know, whatever that might be. And so I do, in this case with meditative dance, the idea is for people to get to that place where they are moving freely in their own way, you know, in the way that they feel. And again, I will bring things out. You know, you might be going into your own space, moving around, or we might be coming into a circle and doing an actual dance movement around the circle, connecting with each other, you know.
Okay.
And so it really depends. I really encourage, one thing that I model a lot and encourage is pelvic mobility, really moving the hips, connecting into your breath, moving your hips. And for those who aren't used to doing that, also learning to kind of open up that area and loosen up, you know,
Okay.
because there's a lot of stuff that gets held in the pelvis, in the
Yes,
hips.
I could.
And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of ways that just holding stuff, even stress, how that affects your body, even
yes,
whether it be your weight or digestive system, holding all of that in. Uh, it's actually amazing to me how much an emotion, which is a feeling, how much an emotion can change the physique of your body.
yes,
And
yes.
trying to understand all of that and move in a way that releases that emotion also releases all of that. I'll say negativity, because at some point the emotions that you're holding on to that are challenging you or discouraging you or inhibiting you are negative for whatever reason.
Yeah,
And getting rid of that you must see, when people hit that moment of, so when the release starts, it has to be a beautiful sight for you,
it
because you
is.
can
It's,
see that.
oh yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's really incredible. And you know, it can manifest, you know, because when we have an emotion, might call it emotional release, and that's in body work, that's in, you know, many modalities of healing,
Mhm.
you know, that which has been repressed, suppressed, or stored, and for good reason, because we're coping, you know, we're keeping
Yeah,
it
yeah.
down, we're keeping things going, we're doing what we have to do, and so we just
Sometimes you're
push
just
it
not ready.
away.
You have to
And
do
we,
it,
yeah,
at the right time, or it's just
and
going to
we,
sit there.
exactly, and we may not know how to do that too, so again, safe space. But it can some, I mean, I don't promise any particular one result, but sometimes it's manifest in people say, oh, I came in with my back was bothering me so chronically and I feel great, you know. It can come in, sometimes the tears need to come out, you
I
know,
was going to
and
say,
again,
sometimes the
none of
body's
it's
just a,
judged. Sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes it's laughter, or sometimes it's just really releasing and feeling free. Maybe the inner child starts to come out to play, right? Who's been suppressed. And that, again, is a whole other conversation that can affect our health very seriously. Yeah, so it can look different ways, or people just being like, wow, I had no idea. Like you said, I didn't know how much I was holding. I had
yeah.
no
People
idea.
are like,
I
where did that
needed
come
that, how
from?
much I needed that, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, it's beautiful. And I really focus, again, well, in the group setting, I really focus on a sense of community and camaraderie, and not everybody just, you know, you might be dancing in your own world in your process at most of the time or whatever, but we're going to come back together, and we're going to, you know that this is a space of love and non-judgment. And so, yeah, so I see a lot of things, because in that, what we hold, it can manifest. That's the somatic work too. That's the embodiment work. It can
Yeah.
manifest in so many chronic issues.
So I've never seen somatic as a description of a form of dance therapy. So explain what somatic dance therapy is.
Okay, so the way, you know, and again, I'll also kind of just in the way that I approach things, basically, somatic has to do with being based in the body, you know, and being based in a relationship to the body. So really tuning into the body, into the sensations of the body, into the messages of the body, and having an actual relationship of your body. Now, in the way that I work with that, it's going to be body, mind, and spirit,
Okay.
you know. So instead of being just kind of having somebody from the outside tell us what's going on, or, you know, what we have to do, we're developing our own relationship with our bodies and with what our bodies need by tuning in to that intelligence.
Oh, sounds so peaceful.
Well, it's an interesting thing. The cultivation of the peaceful is super important, as you're saying, an aspect of it. And it can be challenging sometimes as well, because again, we're getting in tune with what we need to get in tune with, what we're ready to also. But it is amazing. I will say it is an amazing experience, because it's like our bodies are incredible. And if all we are doing is living our bodies through as if they're machines, and what we can make them do and perform without any regard for what we actually need or how we're actually feeling, or what we look like based on some outside standard. I'm not, people do whatever they're going to do, but I'm saying that if that's the only way we relate to our bodies, where are we? Where is the whole of who we are? Where do we get to really enjoy having these bodies and attend to them lovingly? Don't we want to be loving to each other? Doesn't that feel better if we're loving to each other? And then wouldn't we want to be loving to ourselves and our own bodies?
And I think that's where it's missed so much, generations and generations. It's just, people just forgot that internal love and appreciation, and it just made everything became so external. Yes. And emotions never stopped. We still have them, yeah. But everything became so buried because it was the external that is the only thing you had to show. It was all about show. And I believe that just you neglected the heck out of yourself. Yeah. Because it was all external. And now people, now after everything's been external for so long, going deep into that internal and releasing everything that has been buried for one reason or another is not an overnight success.
It's not an overnight success. And it can be honestly, and sometimes it can be devastating. I mean, you can't sugarcoat it. I mean, we have the peaceful, we have the beautiful, we have the spectrum, but we want to work with that to create it to be as beautiful and loving as possible. Even if we're on the floor crying, like that's a beautiful thing, to get that out. And then we develop more compassion for each other. And we can embody this, right, this healing and this presence, and it can go outward. I mean, it creates longevity, it's anti-aging, it's beautifying. We're beautiful naturally, and so it's supportive of the beauty of who we are. Yes. And it just, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, how many of us? I do it. You do your under eye patches. You do all this stress release on the outside, so your face
and that's all wonderful.
Appears to be less stressed.
Yeah,
but quite honestly, if you learn how to just get rid of it from the inside, maybe you don't need all that outside because your inside isn't holding it anymore.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I've seen my own inner transformations from the inside out, how that has been a physical transformation. It's what I work with people a lot. I mean, a lot of in the as a coaching thing too. It's like there's so many physical symptoms, so we work with these physical symptoms, and a lot of it is kind of center of the body or core based issues that manifest. And so it is healing, physically healing. The outside work is a beautiful thing. And it's I always support doing we need on all levels. Yeah. All levels they're so amazing and incredible. And it can actually, what we kind of ingest or what we do, we want to do things that are, of course, in our foods and our drink and all of those things that are going to support our process of healing, because we want to be as nourishing and nurturing as we can be with ourselves to strengthen ourselves in this process,
but you did speak about coaching, and when we first started, you spoke, you had your spiritual advisor, and that's where you realized, the direction that you wanted to go. So do you coach in other ways besides for these different forms of dance, or sometimes a coach is just someone to talk to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, for sure.
And a life coach or a spiritual coach is not necessarily a therapist. There's different avenues of
Yeah,
coaching.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and so even with you know, all of this, I really I'm supporting people in their own way in for transformation,
Okay.
transformation in terms of coming into more of who you are. I call myself a somatic and creative recovery coach. So that's a level of recovery, and recovery is really the way that I approach it is about just reclaiming the truth of who we are, mind, body, spirit, and doing that through self-love and self-care, through a self-loving embrace and walk, learning self-love and self-care, as a way of life. And so yeah, so I focus on that one-to-one. I really am called to work with women at this time, and with men I do the group things. We do co-ed, I do some women, I do seniors, I do all ages. I do varying different types of groups, but I'm really called to, and it's women of all ages. And so my coaching program that I'm focused on is reclaim your creative center. And so with that, we're working with, if you're coming with any kind of physical issue, I work with a lot of different kind of core dysfunctions and things like that as well. Or it could be post-surgery recovery, could be years later, postpartum recovery, years later,
Okay.
dysfunctions, um, you know, hysterectomy, hip replacement, tummy tucks that went wrong, diastasis recti, low back hip issues, mental health recovery as well. I have past lived history of mental illness, and it was trauma based, childhood trauma based, and I have come to the other side. I don't live with that. I don't live with mental illness anymore. And I've experienced being a consumer, being on medication, being off and on, the collapse, the self-sabotage, all of that. So that's also something very dear to my heart, is supporting women in recovery, really, who are very much reclaiming and fully embracing themselves. It's a certain level of being ready to do that work.
And you have a deep understanding of that. So that is very, I would have to think that is very, very helpful, and a different level of support when someone comes to you with something that they've known, you've experienced, you've made it to the other side, so you understand their pain, their pace, and what they, because everybody goes through everything different, but you have a far deeper understanding. And that has to be beneficial when someone comes to you with something similar.
Yes, it is, because I mean, that relationship, it really is an individual relationship. So you want to find the person that resonates with you, of course. But yeah, it's a deep, wow, it's an amazing experience to kind of walk the path. And, that's what we're really all doing, is walking our own path and then supporting each other on the path, really, along our own, this journey. Right. And so it's really powerful, to be able to, recognize some of these places that I walked out of, I worked out of. And that can show up a lot in sensitive and creative people. It can also show up in very super, super driven, that it just pushed it beyond what was actually could be sustainable or healthy. And then the crash happened.
Yeah.
And the awakening happened. So it's like along that spectrum, but ultimately we do have to be sensitive to ourselves to go inside, to do this, to be able to do this work.
I would have to imagine,
or to tap into that, to tap into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and this is another thing that I've always found interesting. And you could tell me if I'm talking about all different types of coaching and guide, or if it's all just almost the same thing, just different titles. There's spiritual guide, there's life coach, there's, just my, a guide of any kind. So how does one become that? Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of my friends, they have their different, I don't want to say therapists, but their guides of whom they speak to. But
Yes.
is there a course? How do you get there?
Well, there's a lot of different ways that people do get to where they're doing their healing work. I My work has been so many different trainings and so many different levels. Like I said, I came in through working with a spiritual guide and teacher, and then I was trained for
Okay.
years, many years. So I came through that. That was my foundation. That was where I came into everything for, you know, walking through my own healing process, knowing it was always what I healed was going to support somebody else. So it was not an academic thing. It was not about, I was going to learn these concepts so that I could teach somebody how to do that. I was going to have to walk it. I was going to have to embody it in order to truly guide somebody on the path of the healing, process. And so it was, actual training, being trained and working with people and doing guidance work in person, long distance. In those days, it started in the 90s. So in those days, we created tapes and sent them. It was, it was a whole
I
different
remember those.
world. It was a whole different world. But that was concurrent with all my, doing all these body-based studies, you know, I'd say thousands of hours now of studies and body work in different modalities and practice with people working in practice and teaching and all of that. And certifications in specific, I won't list everything, but, just
It's a big list.
continually
I've seen.
studying and also learning, listening to people's stories, them telling me the issues that they were dealing with in their bodies, and then working with them through the emotions, through the physical issues, doing the spiritual work. It's just been a compendium of many different things. And it's also included doing performance work, because I do choreography work, and that being conscious healing, working with groups that are about healing through performance and doing it
Okay.
myself. And, so it's been a lot. I'm also a fitness professional, a certified licensed fitness professional and massage therapist, and have worked in nonprofits, mental health, holistic community mental health centers. So a lot of what I do is really been, there are probably a lot of people though that have these stories where they've just been, working in putting together all of their different fields into an interdisciplinary approach. I was always called to an interdisciplinary approach.
Okay.
So I can't say what specific, everybody does, but mine has come to this through this kind of evolution of many years of, again, really my own process and really listening to people and what they're dealing with. And then I would just go study it. I would just go study and, put in my own,
what you've learned,
style.
and then there you
Yeah,
put
I have
together
had
that
many
program.
amazing teachers, and also always that connection with spirit, always listening through meditation and prayer and practice. And, even my dance practice is a prayer practice.
Okay.
So it's just been this kind of process of what is going to be the most effective for the people that are coming along my path, what I feel guided to teach and support. So there are different academies that certify people in, I don't know what the life coaching, academies and such are. But yeah, and I remember when we were doing spiritual guide and teacher training back in the 90s, being told, yeah, they're coaches. They're similar. They're going to be really big. And we were all kind of moving along together.
Yeah.
And so sometimes some of this terminology is used so that people understand what you actually do, or get
Yeah,
a
that makes
sense of,
sense. That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah. and you said that you had gone into, you've worked with children, you've gone into different facilities, I would imagine have a location that you work out of. If somebody or some location thinks I need to contact Morgyn, she is the answer. She will be so helpful to me or our group or our center. I have all your contact information. They can just contact you and then you work out, you'll go to them.
Oh, yes. I am very open to that. It's something that I love, connecting with different communities and working in that way. Absolutely. I'm in Orange County. I'm in South Orange County, about an hour south of Los Angeles. And,
Okay.
and I'm, working in this community, bringing this to different ages and such as well in this community. And I always feel passionate about connecting into different communities, even if it's travel,
Mhm.
or virtual. We have the virtual element is
Yeah, so they
very
can contact you
manageable.
virtual, but you don't have an like an online class that you'll do it virtually if you're contacted that way, but you don't have something where people can log in. And I've seen you do different things on Facebook, and again, everything that Morgyn talks about, I'll make sure all her social media ways to contact her, everybody's linked up, so trust me, you're going to know how to reach her. But I've seen you do different things on your Facebook page that are really great. Is that some ways people could kind of get to know of what you do?
Yes, absolutely. And I have definitely done virtual things. I have definitely done virtual classes. It's just things started, they were so closed down with the pandemic. We're still, and so
Trying to come
things,
back out.
yeah. And they just started opening up again in April. So I've been just full force focused on, just getting things moving again in the community and, creating. So, there are several different things going on, but absolutely. Yeah. I, have just created a new website as well. So that's been a big project. And
Oh, it
so
is.
things, now that we're getting things kind of situated locally as well, is in addition to because the one-to-one coaching I've been on Zoom since 2013. So,
Okay. You're a
so
Zoom
that
professional.
continues to go. Well, we still have the quirks of Zoom. We all know that it
Yes.
can get funny sometimes, but yeah, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic thing. You can work with people all over the world, and people who wouldn't have access to this work or even know it exists, right? It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. It used to be just like in the major cities or whatever, and so it's incredible what's
It makes
happened.
this massive world a little bit
It's
smaller, but bigger.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, so and with the one-to-one too, I offer a complimentary consultation as well to,
Okay.
check in about that. But yeah, I'm open to any questions anybody has. If they want to reach out, I'm open to organizations, individuals. It's a kind of we're in a new place where people are really opening because there's such a demand and
I was gonna
need.
say, such a need.
We're on the edge, and that's what it takes. I mean, that's what it took for me,
Yeah.
so we're on the edge of amazing healing and growth as well.
Yes. I absolutely agree with that. I have danced since I was a little girl in literally a bitty girl in tap shoes. I've done it, all through school. I've done it professionally, and mine was always performance based.
Yeah.
And that is why I thought what you do, yes, you've done performance dance, and that's beautiful.
And
But
I
to
love it.
actually
Yeah.
use dance in such a healing way and listening to you with the breath and the connection, it almost makes me wish I could start all over and learn it that way.
Mm.
With,
Well,
I guess it's never too late.
no, it's so never too late. And the thing is that, and I love performance. Believe me, there's a whole frontier of healing with performance too. It's coming. And I feel very passionate about that. So I just want to be clear with that. And what you have, oh, please, it's so rich. It's so rich that you have this amazing background with all it. You just bring it forward, just bring it into all of this. And it nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted, because that is that takes incredible courage and so much creativity, so much stamina. It takes so much to be a performer, and that's in so much discipline, and it's beautiful. So I would just say, just bring it all in and, own it, and then, plug in wherever this resonates, and you'll just be met again, just perfectly.
I
what
love
you
that.
need. Yeah.
I love that. Where do you see yourself? I mean, there's so much next, like you're teaching, you're a speaker. I mean, people can come and you can speak to them about what you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been in, I love going to conferences and speaking as an advocate as well, an advocate for trauma recovery, for creative expression, for holistic lifestyle, for fitness, is for healing as well. All that. I won't add in everything. But anyway, I speak about that as somebody who's come through also. Believe me, I was not supposed to be alive. I could have been, this is not the person you would see in this physically or anything if I hadn't done my work. And so I really am passionate about, as a speaker, about recovery in that way of, again, self-love, self-healing. There's a Meeting of the Minds is a wonderful organization, or it's a mental health conference in Orange County. And I'll be teaching there as well at that conference in April. That's one of my great passions. I want to kind of keep moving into that sphere as well, of teaching and speaking at conferences, and also conscious performance is a part of that, to bring in that creative expression that we can be in when we do our recovery work, and then we embody this healing as artists. We transmit that healing through our crafts as well.
This sounds so beautiful. And did you say it was Meeting of the Minds conference?
Meeting of the Minds, yes.
And I'll make sure everybody.
I had to look down. I had to take notes so I don't forget.
I'll pop the link up. It'll be below us in the show notes. I want to look into that to see what that's all about. That sounds. I would imagine that's got to, working the conference has got to be one thing, but attending must be extremely cleansing. And just learning different techniques and listening to people like you speak, and knowing most everybody there are they other teachers? Are they people that are looking for some type of therapy? What is that?
Well, in this case, it's a focus on mental health. It's a mental health conference. So, there's just a variety of people that are coming in with their discipline, their craft, their perspective. A lot of people are coming in, the mental health system there are amazing people in it. But there's a lot of change that needs to happen as well for it to actually be fully effective. We're not embracing yet the full whole self and the full healthy lifestyle and the creative experience. We're in it, we're doing it, so this is a mental health conference.
Yes, because
we need more. We need more holistic conferences in general. I mean, the times we're in, they may not be in person. We're doing what we can. I've done virtual conferences too,
But there's in doing this podcast, I've met with so many different people that have healing, emotional healing, physical healing, a lot of different ways. And the one thing that seems to be unanimous across the board is the more you're in tune to knowing how your body works, your mind works, all of that, it's the less medications you may need. You could almost, I don't want to say cure yourself, because I don't want anybody to think I'm a doctor and do this and then you don't need medicine. I am not a doctor. I'm not saying that at all. I've just listened to people that do what you do, way above anything I have knowledge of. And they continuously say, our bodies are amazing all on their own. And there's a lot of outside products you may not need once you start to get much more in tune with yourself.
Yes. And it's so true. And there are many levels of that too. So, we want to be very careful with that as well, of course,
Yes.
because we do, there is often a weaning off of different medications, whether they're physical or for mental health kind of medication, but it really depends on the individual. And if one ever is doing that, it's always, this is one thing I will say for sure, if in that realm, because I've done it, but it's never, and at least I'm going to speak for, I can only speak from where I come from.
Yes.
That we make sure we have our self-care and our recovery in place, because those things are there. They have a purpose. They've had a purpose, and maybe sometimes they're not even that effective, and sometimes they may have side effects, and they may not. There's a combination. Sometimes they're saving our life. There's a spectrum. They're saving our life to all the way that they're not really that effective, or they're impacting us or whatever in a negative way. But underneath that is, we must claim our own self-healing. We must be doing the work. We must be taking responsibility for our recovery and have support, of course, whether it's community or professional support, whatever that is, but we have to be doing the work first. Yes. And we have to be doing the physical work as well. We have to be eating well. We have to be hydrating, getting, all of these things. We have to be working with all the elements. And sometimes that may be certain herbs, that may be supplement, whatever it is. That's an individual thing.
Everything's individual.
Yes, but but I'm not a recommender of, because so many people want to say, oh, I'm just going to get off this, but they don't do the work. And then they fall flat.
You got to do
and that can be relapses, that can be all kinds. You got to do the work, and you've got to be physically imbibing and practicing the habits, or learning them that are going to support your body.
Yes.
So you got to be still addressing the issues with physical support, with lifestyle, with what you imbibe in your body, and taking that very seriously.
It's a full involvement. It's not just, I'm just going to do this and hopefully.
And often with medical supervision as well,
Yeah.
if you have the right people,
Yes.
So, because like for me, if I was and it's all the individual, so I don't say everybody do it, but for me, when I got off medication, I had a psychiatrist supervising that, and I was doing all the natural things I already know and was doing, and my inner work. It was all of it.
Yes.
And it was, I wasn't, yeah. So I'm just saying that very passionately, because it's a piece that can often, even if it's just kind of stated, it often gets overlooked by people.
Yes.
Because they want the quick fix.
Yeah. Yeah. In a world where everybody wants it like this might be the one area, it doesn't happen overnight. So you have to stay the course, do your homework, stay committed, and you'll see the change come.
Yes. And it works in increments, and you'll feel the difference. You'll feel something right away, because that decision is the pivotal place. And then you keep doing the work, and you don't give up, and that's how we support each other.
I have to tell you, Morgyn, that's like that right there. That's the message. That's the message we're going to end this on. How beautiful is that? I've learned so much just from sitting here on this podcast with you. I can't wait to go look up all the different things. I will absolutely link everybody up to everything Morgyn said, her website, her social media, go through the photos. I just think I just want to see everybody happier and healing and just getting to that better place, because we have spent so much time. Now we just everybody, let's just be happy and just get back to who we are.
Yes, absolutely. And what a beautiful thing. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for just, this is an amazing experience talking with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on Shannon Confidential, and just stay in touch. Anything that you do in the future, however your, Morgyn Danae Wellness evolves, come back on. I think this is so beneficial to so many people. I don't want to keep you quiet. I want to get you out to the masses because they need you. And I cannot thank you enough for being on Shannon Confidential today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.